Let's talk about something that's within your reach right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not after you get a raise, lose 10 pounds, or someone finally validates you. I'm talking about a power you have access to in this moment, your state. Because here's the truth, if you can change your state, you can change your life. Right now, not someday. Now, what does that mean? What is a state? It's the emotional, mental, and physical condition you're in at any given time. It's how you breathe, how you move, how you speak, how you think. It's your internal chemistry, your posture, your focus, and your self-talk. It's the entire energy blueprint of what you're embodying in that moment. And most people live in default. They don't choose their state. They react. They let the world decide for them. Traffic was bad. My boss was rude. The bills came in. My partner said something hurtful. Now I'm in a bad mood. Now I'm anxious. Now I'm depressed. But you don't have to live that way. You're not a thermostat. You're not a puppet on the strings of the environment. You're not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the master of your emotional state if, and only if, you choose to be. And once you understand that, once you embody it, you will never again stay stuck. You may visit pain. You may pass through fear. But you won't live there, because you'll know how to shift it. In a moment. Because all it takes is one thing, a decision. Think about the last time you were unstoppable. Go back to that moment in your mind, when you felt confident, alive, full of purpose. Maybe you were speaking in front of a crowd, maybe you were winning in your business. Maybe you were in love, you felt certain. You felt electric. Now ask yourself, were the conditions around you perfect? Or was it that your state was elevated, that your energy was aligned, that your body was engaged, your breathing was deep, your shoulders were back, your mind was focused, your emotions were fully alive? That's not magic. That's not random. That's state management. And the good news is, it's not reserved for special moments. It's a tool, it's a habit, it's a practice. And it starts with awareness. You cannot transform what you don't track. So first, get honest about your emotional home. What state do you live in most often? Not the one you post about on social media. Not the one you tell people in passing. I mean the state you wake up to. The state you bring to your work. The one you come home to at night. Is it stress? Is it overwhelm? Is it anxiety, resentment, anger? If that's the case, no judgment. That's not who you are. It's just a habit. And the beautiful thing about habits is they can be broken and replaced. Let's talk mechanics. The fastest way to change your state is through your physiology. Move your body, change your breathing, change your face, and your mind will follow. You're not a brain floating in a jar. You're a full body experience. The moment you shift how you use your body, you change what you're capable of feeling. Try this right now. Stand up, shake out your arms, bounce in place, take 3 deep breaths and raise your arms above your head like you just won a marathon. Feel that, not later. Now that's victory, that's energy. And your mind starts to interpret it. We're up, we're winning. Let's go. That's not theory. That's how your nervous system is wired. When you learn to wire your body for energy, your emotions can't help but rise to match it. Your mindset shifts. Your self-talk changes. You stop saying, "Why me?" And you start saying, "Try me." You stop saying, "I'm tired," and start saying, "I'm ready." Because your state is no longer controlled by your conditions. It's created by you. The second tool of state change is focus. What are you focusing on right now? Because whatever you focus on, you feel. If you focus on what's missing, what's broken, what could go wrong, you'll feel fear, doubt, and hesitation. But if you focus on what's possible, what's working, what you're grateful for, even in the middle of the storm, suddenly, you access a new level of strength. Not because the world changed, because you did. Focus is the lens through which you experience reality. 2 people can go through the exact same situation. One breaks, the other grows. Why state? Focus, meaning, because it's never about what happens to you. It's what you do with it. And that always starts with the state you're in when it happens. So the question isn't, can I handle this? The question is, what state do I need to be in to handle this? Because the answer to that determines everything. You don't need more information. You don't need more inspiration, you need activation. And that comes from the inside out. You want to lead your state. You want to love deeply. Elevate your emotional energy. You want to perform at your highest level. Condition your body and your mind to operate at peak state daily. Not just when you feel like it. Make it a ritual. Make it a standard. Not something you try when things go wrong, but something you do to make things go right. Emotion is created by motion. You want different emotions? Create different motion. You want to live with passion, clarity, confidence, joy. Don't wait for it. Generate it. produce it, live it. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you are. And who you are is whatever state you live in most consistently. So if you want a new life, the fastest way, the most permanent way, is to change the state you live in. And you can do that right now. Too many people are walking through life chained to a story that no longer serves them. A story that was written years ago, maybe even decades ago. A story based on pain, on failure, on rejection. And they think, because that story happened, it's who they are. But let's get one thing straight: your past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. You can visit it, you can learn from it, but you don't have to live there. There's a lie that gets planted early in life, and if you don't rip it out by the root, it becomes your identity. The lie is this: because this is what I've been through, it's who I am. That is a lie. What happened to you is real, no question. The heartbreak, the trauma, the mistakes, the failures, they happened. But they are not you. They are events. They are moments. They are chapters in the book, not the title of the book. People wear their pain like a badge. I grew up without love. I failed in business. I was abandoned. I've always been shy. I've never been good with money. These become declarations, not observations, but identities. And once you turn a moment into your identity, you stop growing, you stop dreaming. Because if you're convinced your future is just a continuation of your past, why try? Why hope? Why change? You are not the same person you were last year. You're not the same person you were last week. You are growing, breathing, becoming. Every moment of every day, your cells are changing, your mind is evolving. Your choices are stacking up into a new version of you. The question is, are you participating in that process, or are you just repeating the same patterns out of familiarity? Most people don't realize this, but they're not addicted to their past. They're addicted to the certainty of it. The mind craves what it knows, even if it hurts. So the familiar pain of the past becomes more comfortable than the uncertain beauty of the future. That's why people stay in toxic relationships. That's why people keep sabotaging their goals. That's why they keep replaying the same emotional soundtrack. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lovable. But it's not truth. It's programming. It's repetition. It's a script running in the background that they've never updated. Here's the breakthrough: you can rewrite that script. Not tomorrow, right now. And you don't have to wait for some external permission. You don't have to wait until the debt is paid off, or until your parents finally say they're proud of you, or until someone loves you enough to convince you you're worthy. The power isn't out there. It's in your decision to stop dragging the weight of the past into a future that's begging for you to show up new. You're not defined by the things that broke you. You're defined by the courage it takes to break through. Think of the strongest people you know. Were they born strong? Or did they become strong by walking through fire and coming out with purpose? Pain is part of the process, but it's not the destination. Too many people get wounded and then build a home around the wound. They build their identity around the heartbreak, around the betrayal, around the loss. They say, "This is just who I am now." But that's a prison, not a person. Your brain is always learning, and what you teach it consistently becomes your truth. So if you keep feeding it the narrative that you're broken, unworthy, stuck, then your brain will make sure your life matches that story. Not because it's true, but because your identity demands consistency. We all act in alignment with who we believe we are. So the work is not just about changing your actions. It's about changing the source of those actions. It's about telling yourself a new story so often, so powerfully, with so much emotion and intensity that your brain has no choice but to believe it. This is why rituals matter, why movement matters, why language matters. Because you're not just thinking your future into existence, you're embodying it. You're becoming it. And becoming takes more than belief. It takes repetition. Repetition with emotion. Repetition with energy. You don't shift your life by reading a quote on Instagram. You shift it by declaring something new, daily, hourly, with such force that the old version of you no longer feels like home. And yes, you'll be tested. Life will bring the past back to your doorstep to see if you'll answer. But this time, you don't have to open the door. This time, you get to respond from your future, not react from your past. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to make peace with everyone who hurt you. You don't have to have closure. Closure is a decision, not a conversation. You close the chapter when you decide that the pain is no longer who you are. The past is powerful, but it's not permanent. It's only as alive as the energy you give it. And that means your freedom begins the moment you stop feeding the old story. The moment you stop justifying your limitations. The moment you stop using what was as an excuse not to create what can be. Because you are not your past, you are not your pain, you are not your mistakes. You are the author. You are the creator. You are the architect of what comes next. There is a moment in everyone's life, maybe a few key moments, when everything changes. Not because the world suddenly shifted. Not because someone showed up to save you, but because you made a decision, a real decision. Not a preference, not a hope, not a wish, a decision. That kind of moment splits your life in two, before and after. It draws a line in the sand and says, I will no longer live like this. I will no longer settle for this. I will no longer be the version of myself that's been on autopilot. That is the power of a decision, and most people have no idea just how powerful they are. See, people think their life is shaped by their circumstances, by their environment, by what happened to them, but that's not the truth. It's not what happens to you that shapes your life. It's what you decide to do about it. It's the meaning you give it, and the action you take from that meaning. That's where your destiny is forged. In those private, powerful moments when no one else is watching, but you are watching, and you decide. Decision is the ultimate power. It's the one force that levels the playing field. You don't need to be born into wealth to decide to become financially free. You don't need to have had perfect parents to decide to become an incredible one. You don't need a degree on the wall to decide to become a leader, an innovator, a visionary. Because life doesn't respond to conditions. It responds to commitment, and commitment is born in decision. The challenge is most people don't make real decisions. They make soft promises to themselves. They say things like, I should work out. I should leave this relationship. I should start that business. They live in the land of should. But should is not power. Should is hesitation wrapped in good intentions. A real decision is when you cut off any other possibility. You decide and you act. That's what the word literally means, to cut. Decide, like Hamite suid, a decision cuts away every other option. That's the level you need to live at if you want a life that reflects your true potential. Think about a time when you made a real decision and followed through. Maybe it was the moment you quit something that was draining your soul. Maybe it was the moment you finally said yes to your truth. Maybe it was the moment you stood up for yourself, or committed to growth, or walked away from a life you had outgrown. That wasn't random. That was destiny being shaped, one decision at a time. The truth is, every result you see in your life right now, your health, your relationships, your income, your energy, your joy or lack of it, is the compound effect of past decisions. Decisions you made about what to believe, about what to focus on, about what to tolerate, about what you were willing to settle for. Nothing happens until a decision is made, not hope. Not luck, not even prayer. Prayer can guide you, hope can inspire you, but only decision creates results. And it's not about deciding once, it's about deciding and recommitting every single day. The decision to live in a beautiful state is not a one-time event. The decision to be a loving partner, a present parent, a bold entrepreneur, a healthy individual, these aren't made once and forgotten. They are renewed, reinforced, rechosen over and over until they become part of who you are. You can't make a true decision while you're still negotiating with your limits. You can't decide to live your dream while you're still arguing for your excuses. And you certainly can't create an extraordinary life with an average level of emotional commitment. A real decision comes from absolute clarity and total emotional intensity. It comes from a moment of truth where the pain of staying the same is finally greater than the fear of changing. When you reach that threshold, your decision becomes inevitable. You don't dabble. You commit. You don't try. You do. There's no back door, no escape hatch. You're in, fully. And when you live from that place, life bends to meet you. Opportunities show up, people notice, resources flow. Because the world responds to people who know where they're going. Not people who are kind of interested. People who have decided. People talk about fate, destiny, divine timing. And sure, there's magic to life. But destiny isn't written in the stars. It's written in the choices you make every day. When to wake up, what to tolerate, what you demand of yourself, who you spend time with, what you feed your mind and your body, what you say yes to, and more importantly, what you say no to. You don't drift into greatness. You decide your way into it. And if you're in a season of confusion, if you feel stuck or unclear or overwhelmed, chances are you haven't made a true decision in a while. Because when you decide, uncertainty vanishes. The fog lifts, energy returns, clarity rises. Even if the path isn't perfect, you move forward with power because you've chosen. You've owned it. And that kind of momentum is unstoppable. So many people wait for confidence before they decide. They wait for certainty. But decision doesn't require certainty, it creates it. You don't need to know every step of the staircase to take the first one. You just need to decide that where you are is no longer where you're going to be. And that's when momentum begins. That's when your life changes. Not because the world shifts, but because you did. Because you made a decision and never looked back. Every single moment of your life, your mind is focusing on something. Right now, as you're reading this, you're focusing. Your brain is filtering out millions of pieces of data, and it's choosing out of all that chaos one thing to lock in on. That focus isn't just passive, it's power. It's the steering wheel of your life. Because what you consistently focus on, you feel. What you feel, you act on. And what you act on becomes your reality. Where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus on what's missing, your energy will follow. If you focus on your limitations, your energy will back it up. You'll find evidence to support whatever you choose to zero in on. Focus is not just mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's magnetic. Your focus calls in your future. So if you want to change your life, you must begin by changing what you consistently give your attention to. Most people don't even realize they're focusing on the wrong things. They wake up and immediately check their phone. They flood their system with everyone else's priorities, problems, and noise. They focus on the news, the traffic, the unpaid bills, the message they didn't get, the one comment from last night's conversation that rubbed them wrong. And they wonder why they feel drained, why they feel anxious, why nothing seems to be moving forward. It's not because they lack potential, it's because their focus is fractured. Your focus determines your feelings, and your feelings fuel your behavior. If you focus on how far you have to go, you'll feel overwhelmed. If you focus on how you always screw things up, you'll feel unworthy. But if you shift that focus, just shift it, and you start paying attention to your progress, your strength, the fact that you're still standing, still breathing, still fighting, then everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because your perception did. Because energy follows focus. Your brain is always asking questions. And whatever question you ask, it will go searching for an answer. If you keep asking, why do I always fail? Your brain will find a reason, and your energy will collapse. But if you ask, what's great about this situation? Or how can I use this? Or what's the opportunity here that I'm not seeing yet? Now your focus is directed toward solutions, toward empowerment, toward possibility. Same moment, different questions. Same world, different reality. Focus is a muscle, and most people have never trained it. They've trained distraction, they've trained reaction, but they haven't conditioned intentional focus. And yet, the most successful, fulfilled people on the planet have mastered that skill. Not because they were born with it, but because they practiced it relentlessly. They decided that their focus was too valuable to be given away to fear, to gossip, to other people's drama, or to stories that disempower them. What you focus on, you move toward. It's like a GPS system. Type in the wrong destination, and it will guide you there perfectly. If your focus is always on what you don't want, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be alone, I don't want to fail. Your internal GPS is being set to drive you straight into the very thing you fear. Not because you're cursed, not because the universe is against you, but because focus is a command, and energy will obey it. If you want to reclaim your power, reclaim your focus. Ask yourself in every moment, what am I focusing on right now? And is it empowering me or weakening me? That one question can redirect your whole day. You could be in the middle of chaos, in the middle of conflict, in the middle of a storm. And in one moment, by choosing to shift your focus to what you can control, to what you can appreciate, to what you can learn, your entire state shifts. You go from reactive to creative, from helpless to resourceful, from victim to leader. Focus creates momentum. Whatever you focus on expands. You start thinking about an idea, and suddenly that idea gains weight. You start thinking about an opportunity, and suddenly solutions start showing up. You start focusing on gratitude, and your energy rises. You begin focusing on contribution, and you stop thinking about what you lack. You begin focusing on growth, and you stop obsessing over failure. Because your focus is like sunlight through a magnifying glass. Scattered, it's warm. Focused, it can ignite fire. Most people are scattered. They're dabbling in everything, fully engaged in nothing. They want results, but their focus is diluted. You can't master your life with half your attention. You can't build something extraordinary while constantly being pulled in 1,000 directions. If your focus is always on distractions, you will live in reaction. But if you learn to focus like a laser, To direct your attention with intensity and purpose, you will become unstoppable. This is why rituals matter. Morning routines, visualization, journaling, breathing, movement. All of these are tools to take control of your focus before the world starts pulling on it. If you don't direct your focus, someone else will. A notification, a headline, a problem that's not even yours. But when you lock in, when you decide what matters most, and you train your mind to stay there, to return there over and over again, you become powerful beyond belief. The quality of your life comes down to the quality of your focus. Because focus dictates what you notice. What you notice becomes what you feel. What you feel drives what you do. And what you do repeatedly becomes your destiny. Focus is the front end of creation. If you want to live a different life, you have to start seeing a different picture. And you can't see it if you're always staring at what you don't want. Where focus goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, life grows. You don't get a breakthrough just by thinking about it. You don't transform your life just by reading another book or watching another video or repeating positive affirmations that feel hollow in your chest. A breakthrough is not an intellectual event. It's an emotional eruption. It's a moment when something inside of you shifts so powerfully, so completely that you can never go back to who you were. A real breakthrough doesn't feel like learning. It feels like remembering who you were before the world told you to play small. People walk around their entire lives with logic in their heads and pain in their hearts. They think if they can just figure it out, they'll be free. But the truth is, logic rarely moves people. Logic explains, emotion transforms. When you feel something fully, deeply, with every fiber of your being, that's when a breakthrough happens. That's when you stop negotiating with your limitations. That's when you stop tolerating the excuses that have been stealing years from you. That's when you rip off the mask, shatter the story, and meet yourself in your rawest, realest form. Emotion is the language of transformation. The body listens to it. The nervous system responds to it. The brain rewires itself around it. Think back to the most powerful moments of your life. The ones that shifted everything. They weren't quiet. They weren't analytical. They were emotional. Maybe it was the moment you finally said, enough. The moment your heart broke open. The moment you dropped to your knees and surrendered. Or maybe it was the moment you stood up and roared, no more. Those were not mental decisions. Those were emotional earthquakes. And they didn't just touch you, they changed you. We live in a world that trains us to suppress emotion, to stay logical, to be composed, to be nice. But being nice isn't the same as being alive. Being composed isn't the same as being connected. And stuffing down your emotions doesn't make you strong. It makes you numb. You weren't designed to live numb. You weren't born to be a robot checking off boxes and pretending everything's fine when inside you're screaming. You were built for depth feeling, for connection, for fire. And your emotions are the signal flare of your truth. When they rise, they're not inconveniences to be silenced. They're invitations to step into something bigger. The problem is, most people are afraid of their own emotions. They've spent years running from them, numbing them, managing them. But the emotion you suppress becomes the pattern that controls you. You don't need to control your emotions. You need to use them. You need to feel them fully, so you can move through them, not live under them. Because when you feel deeply, you gain access to your power. And that's what a breakthrough really is. It's power reclaimed. A breakthrough comes when you stop resisting your truth. When you stop pretending the pain isn't there. When you stop avoiding the conversation. When you stop lying to yourself just to keep the peace or maintain the image. A breakthrough is messy. It's loud, it shakes you. But that's the beauty of it. It breaks the shell. It cracks the surface and lets your real self rise. Not the self that's been surviving. The self that's meant to thrive. And emotion is the doorway to all of it. That's why people can spend years in therapy, talking and talking, but still feel stuck. Because they've never dropped into the emotional root of the pattern. They've analyzed it, they've explained it. They've built an entire story around it. But until they feel it, nothing changes. Until they allow themselves to truly connect with the pain, the rage, the guilt, the shame, the heartbreak, and then flip that energy into hunger, into courage, into resolve. Nothing sticks. Change is a decision, but it's fueled by emotion. You can decide to change all day long, but if you're not emotionally connected to why it must change, you'll keep falling back into the old loop. You'll revert to safety. You'll choose the familiar, but when the emotion behind the decision is strong enough, when the pain of staying the same becomes unbearable, or when the vision of what's possible becomes so vivid it pulls you forward, then change becomes not only possible, but inevitable. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need every answer. What you need is emotional leverage. That fire inside that says, this ends here. This starts now. That's what moves the needle. That's what shifts your identity. That's what separates the moment that changed you from the years that didn't. It's the intensity of emotion that wraps the decision in steel and makes it unbreakable. And emotion isn't just pain, it's passion, it's love, it's awe. When you experience deep gratitude, your heart opens. When you feel deep love, you expand. When you're in awe of life, a creation of your own breath, you remember how powerful you are. That's why music moves us, why stories impact us, why we remember certain moments for decades. Because they were charged with emotion, they made us feel. And in that feeling, something inside of us shifted. You want to create a breakthrough. Don't wait for life to hand you one. Create one. Get in your body, move, breathe, scream, laugh, cry, dance, shake the system, interrupt the pattern, drop the mask, and give yourself permission to feel without filter. That's where the door opens. That's where the resistance breaks. That's where the old identity dissolves and the new one is born. Emotion is the fuel. Emotion is the compass. Emotion is the force that turns a moment into a movement. Your state is the engine of your life. It's the fuel behind every decision you make, every action you take, every relationship you build or destroy, every opportunity you either seize or let slip through your fingers. It's not what's happening around you that determines the quality of your life. It's what's happening within you. Because the truth is, nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. And that meaning is determined by your state. When you're in a peak state, you're unstoppable, you're energized, you're creative, you're magnetic. You walk into a room and people feel you before you even speak. But when you're in a low state, when your energy is depleted, when your emotions are heavy, when your mind is cloudy, you could be standing in front of the greatest opportunity of your life and not even see it. Not because it's not there, but because your internal world is tuned to the wrong frequency. State is not something random that just happens to you. It's not a mood you fall into or a feeling you wait to receive. State is something you create. It's a choice, a set of habits, a decision to take control of your physiology, your focus, and your language. Because those are the three forces that determine your state every second of the day. Let's start with your physiology, your body. Motion creates emotion. How you use your body affects how you feel instantly. Slouch your shoulders, breathe shallow, hang your head, and your nervous system gets the message that life is heavy. But stand tall, breathe deep, move with energy, and your brain starts firing differently. Your chemistry changes. Your emotion changes. That's not metaphysical talk, it's biology. Your body is a switchboard for your state, and most people never touch the controls. They just live in the default, and then wonder why they feel off. But you can't live an extraordinary life with a sluggish body. You can't make bold decisions with shallow breath. You can't show up fully in your life if your posture is signaling defeat. Then there's your focus, what you choose to pay attention to. Focus is powerful because it magnifies whatever it touches. If you focus on what's wrong, you'll feel disempowered. If you focus on what's missing, you'll feel empty. If you focus on fear, your actions will be small and cautious. But if you focus on your vision, if you focus on what you're grateful for, if you focus on how far you've come, your state elevates. You stop reacting and start creating, because where focus goes, energy flows. And that energy shapes your state. And then there's language. The words you use internally and externally shape your emotional experience. Tell yourself, this is the worst thing ever. And your brain will believe you. Say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stuck, I can't do this. And your state will drop like a stone. But shift your language. Try, I've got this. I'm figuring it out. This is a challenge, not a crisis. And suddenly your nervous system wakes up. Your brain starts working for you, not against you. Language creates meaning, and meaning fuels your state. Mastering your state means taking ownership of these three forces. It means deciding that you will not be the product of your environment, your calendar, or your circumstances. You will be the product of your state. And your state is your responsibility. That's what separates people who live in reaction from people who live in creation. People who live in reaction let the outside world dictate their inside world. They check their phone in the morning and let a text determine their mood. They hear bad news and spiral. They don't feel motivated, so they don't act. But the ones who live in creation, they flip the script. They create their state, and from that state they create their results. When you master your state, you become unshakable. Life can throw storms at you, but you don't collapse. You adapt, You navigate, you lead. You don't need things to go perfectly because you trust your ability to manage your internal world. That's the real freedom. Not having control over everything, but having the strength to handle anything. This is the difference between discipline and chaos, between mastery and mediocrity. The person who can shift their state in a moment, who can drop out of fear and into focus, out of anger and into clarity, out of hesitation and into certainty. That person holds the keys to their destiny. That person doesn't just survive pressure, they perform under it, because they've trained themselves to access their best self, regardless of the noise around them. Think about athletes before a championship, soldiers before a mission, speakers before they step on stage. Do you think they rely on feeling good by chance? No. They anchor into their state. They use breath, movement, visualization, rituals. They generate the emotions that match the outcome they want. Because emotion doesn't have to be a reaction. It can be a resource. You can summon confidence. You can summon courage. You can summon joy, even in the middle of chaos. But only if you stop waiting for it and start generating it. Your state is the gateway to every breakthrough, every win, every relationship, every performance. It's the starting line. You want to change your habits. Start with your state. You want to be more consistent. Start with your state. You want to lead, inspire, grow, and love more deeply. Get in the right state. Because strategy won't matter if your state is weak. Your knowledge won't activate if your state is low. You won't follow through if your state isn't aligned with your vision. This is the practice, every day. Before you make the call, before you walk into the meeting, before you come home to your family, get in state. Take control, prime your body, sharpen your focus. Command your language. Step into the version of you that already has what you're after. Because when you lead with state, you lead your life. And when you master your inner world, nothing in the outer world can touch you the same way again. There is a moment in every person's life, a line in the sand, where they make a decision so powerful, so absolute, that everything after it changes. That decision doesn't always come when life is calm. It usually arrives in the middle of chaos, in the heat of disappointment, in the silence of deep reflection. And in that single moment, everything begins to shift. Not because the world changes, but because they changed. Because decision is the ultimate power. Your destiny is not written in your conditions. It's not carved into your DNA. It's not predetermined by your background or your education or your history. Destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. And choice begins with decision. The moment you decide, really decide, your life starts moving in a new direction. Because decision cuts off all other possibilities. It says, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I stand for. And when you make a decision from your soul, not your circumstances, you awaken something unstoppable inside of you. Most people never make real decisions. They make preferences. They make wishes. They dabble. They say, I'd like to lose weight. I hope I can start that business. I'm trying to be more confident. But there's no power in trying. Trying is soft. Trying is survival language. A real decision says, this is happening. No backdoor backup plan. No maybe. Just full commitment. And commitment brings energy, clarity, focus. It organizes your resources and your spirit behind a single aim. And that kind of focus is what bends reality. Your decisions are the architects of your life. Every result you have right now is the product of decisions you've made, or refused to make. If your body is strong, it's because you decided to treat it like a temple. If your relationship is on fire, it's because you decided to prioritize intimacy, presence, and growth. If your business is thriving, it's because you decided to lead, to serve, to innovate. And if you're stuck, if you're frustrated, if you're repeating the same painful patterns, it's not because you're broken, it's because you haven't made a new decision yet. The beautiful thing is, one decision, just one, can shift the entire trajectory of your life. You don't need to wait, you don't need permission, you don't need perfect timing or a full plan. What you need is clarity and courage. Clarity to know what you really want, and courage to claim it, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you. Because the greatest decisions are forged in discomfort. They demand you become more than you've been. They require you to break ties with the past version of yourself that settled, that hesitated, that played it safe. Think about it. Every breakthrough moment you've had started with a decision. The decision to walk away, the decision to start over, the decision to speak your truth, the decision to commit, even when you were terrified. And every time you made that decision, a door opened. Not because someone handed you a new life, but because you took it. You stepped up, you leaned in. You acted in alignment with your future, not your fear, You cannot control every event in your life, but you can always control how you respond. And your response is your decision. Do you shrink or do you rise? Do you get bitter or do you get better? Do you let the past define you, or do you use it as fuel in that split second when life hits you and you decide to stand tall, to choose growth, to step forward anyway? That's where power lives. That's where character is born. That's where destiny is rewritten. But here's the truth: most people avoiding indecision is also a decision. When you hesitate, when you delay, when you stay in limbo, you're deciding. You're deciding to give your power away. You're deciding to let fear dictate your path. You are deciding to let time slip through your fingers while your heart waits for a bold move. And nothing costs more than the decisions you refuse to make. Because time doesn't wait. Life doesn't pause. And every moment you delay the decision your soul already knows it wants to make, you lose energy, confidence, momentum. You have to decide who you are before the world does it for you. You have to decide what you're made for before your circumstances convince you to settle. You have to decide to become the kind of person who follows through, who makes a decision and then builds the habits, takes the actions, and develops the standards to support that decision every day. Because a decision is just the beginning. It's the match, but you have to feed the fire. You have to commit every day to the choice you made once. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a powerful decision. Because the moment you decide who you are and what you stand for, life starts organizing itself around that clarity. You begin attracting opportunities that align with that vibration. You stop tolerating things that don't fit that identity. You start acting with certainty, even in uncertainty. And certainty is magnetic. It pulls the future into the now. That's how lives change, not with 100 scattered efforts, not with passive hope, with one bold, clear, soul-level decision that this is who you are now. This is your new standard. This is your new direction. And no matter what shows up, no matter how long it takes, no matter who doubts you, you hold the line. You course correct when needed. You adapt when required. But you do not back down because you decided. And when you decide fully, finally, with everything in you, you reshape your life from the inside out. At the end of the day, it's not about motivation. It's about transformation. It's not about knowing what to do. It's about stepping into who you really are. You were never meant to live small. You were never built to simply exist. You were designed to expand, to rise, to break through limits, to feel deeply, to love fully, to lead boldly, and to live with passion, purpose, and power. But that life doesn't happen by chance. It happens by decision. It happens by mastery. It happens when you own your story, when you master your state, when you stop running from emotion and instead use it as fuel, when you shift your patterns, when you take back the pen and write a new narrative. This isn't theory. It's a call to rise. Your past doesn't define you. Your story is not set in stone. In every moment, you hold the most powerful force on earth, the power to choose. And when you choose growth over comfort, courage over fear, vision over circumstance, everything changes. Because transformation doesn't come from waiting. It comes from becoming, from stepping into your next level, from demanding more of yourself than the world has ever asked of you. The life you crave, the love you long for, the impact you were born to make, it's all waiting on the other side of your decision to fully show up. Not someday, not when it's convenient, now. Because your life is not a rehearsal. This is it. And your destiny isn't something you find, it's something you claim, right here, right now.